That is a really impressive analysis you've put forth.
Oh, yeah.
You're keeping up with the corridor.
I was about to say, I thought I just watched a Corridor Crew breakdown or a behind-the-scenes featurette.
What is happening there, Reject Nation? We are going to watch from new Rockstars today, The Book of Boba Fett, Episode 6, Easter Eggs and Breakdown. That's right, yep, we're starting on Episode 6 today with them. I know you guys have been asking for a while. It's just been a little bit hard with the schedule, especially because we got to adjust our sleep patterns with the whole Peacemaker, the following. It's been a lot, but we figured we'll do our best to do the last two. At least we'll probably be late to the last one for this as well because I'm gone all day the day the last one comes out. Just giving you a heads up before you start complaining at us. Anyway, let's get to it, people. Hit that like button if you can. That last episode was some of the best Star Wars I've ever seen. Let's get into this.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of The Book of Boba Fett, Episode 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger, an episode ironically filled with familiar faces, familiar music, familiar trauma, so filled that Boba Fett is really
Familiar trauma.
status of sulking silently in the corner. Yet still, I cannot help but squeal like a Gamorrean at all this nostalgia porn, because there's actually so much in this episode that is easy to miss, trust me, and a deeper meaning to why we are seeing Luke and Grogu Jedi Hour on this Boba Fett series.
All right, let's get this out of the way. A lot of people I saw on social media, especially saying like about Boba not being in it. Yeah, it's funny that Boba's barely been in this. They only had like a minute of screen time, if I'm not mistaken. I've heard some people say, guys, it's like a book, you know, they don't always focus on the main character. And I've heard a lot of people jump to the defense of, I don't get what the big deal is, why people are surprised. The showrunner said that this would be Mandalorian Season 2.5. To that, I'd say, most people don't get that message. Like the post of the public. Yeah. While I'm not personally perturbed by it, I do think it's kind of a humorous discussion that's been going around. It's one of the most memorable parts of this journey of Book of Boba Fett. Is how in the best episodes he's not even in it. Yeah.
So we open on the spinning vanes of a moisture evaporator. Now, in the engineering of these vapor spires, the vanes really serve as a humidity sensor, a way of determining how much moisture on the day can be coaxed from the air and condensed in water through these chilling bars. So these veins spin.
I love they thought all this out.
Western imagery foretelling a storm of brewing. It's literally a prime moisture collection day here on the outskirts of most Pelgo, Freetown. A matter of life and death for these desert dwellers, all interfered with because of this stupid drug deal. 2 ways the Pikes are threatening Tatooine and must be stopped.
Interesting.
These Pikes keep their spikes in the same kind of chest that we saw in Episode 2, and their credits are kept in the same kind of Camtono storage unit used throughout these series based on the ice cream maker prop carried by Wilro Hood on Cloud City and Empire Strikes Back. Good old Wilro always gonna get a shout out every time one of these things shows up. Cobb Vanth, the Vanth returns in the Mandalorian Chapter 9, stepping into frame in that classic Western gunslinger shot, hand already on his blaster, the same frame that they used on Han Solo in A New Hope when he approached Jabba the Hutt.
And in Solo, a Star Wars story.
From the 1977 cut, added back in a special edition. Cobb says,
And these stripes indicate I'm the Marshal of said territories.
yeah, those red stripes on white is the same insignia on the Marshal badge Captain Carson Teva gave Cara Dune, minus the New Republic icon, meaning these stripes are a widely accepted symbol of authority in the Outer Rim. The Pikes choose violence, and he takes down 3 of the 4, but notice he only actually fires twice. The first shot taking out 2 of the Pikes, the second just taking out the 3rd guy, but the way those last 2 were lined up, he could have gotten them both, something this final Pike realizes, as Cobb tells him,
I can see
That's
you're
cool.
the smart one.
yeah, probably an involuntary gesture from Timothy Oliphant, but the wink means the same kind of thing. Like, trust me, but I'll also kill you.
Wait a minute. Was that a real wink?
Oh my god.
Is that an actual wink? I gotta look back at that. It was a real wink. I didn't even notice that wink before. The wink!
The wink.
The wink, that's what we live for. Forget all the windmills shit and all that. It's the Timothy Oliphant wink.
There's only one of them in known existence, and it's here.
Also, that gusty opening shot also showed how this is a perfect windy day for scattering some spice dust, taken off the streets, flowing downwind. Probably some bantha who is high as a kite now.
Actually, what I really do love about how they decided to bookend this with Cobb Vanth's story, they start him off as this badass gunslinger, like out of a Western. It's like, oh, this must be the Desert Stranger that they're talking about with the title card. Like, this must be his episode, so it's kind of like a mislead for when eventually Cad Bane does show up. It's so cool to, like, have your opening shot be, man, that Cobb Vanth, he's a badass gunslinger. Don't mess with this guy. He'll take you down. And then to be met with the ultimate bounty hunter later on.
Yeah.
It's a really cool visual storytelling.
Mando pilots his custom N1 starfighter to the planet where Luke brought Grogu after we last saw them in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale. Now, to be clear, this planet is not identified. It is the same planet where Luke had his school, the one destroyed in The Last Jedi flashbacks, but that planet was deliberately never identified in Star Wars canon. Like, this is not Elfrana. That was a rocky ore world that Luke and Lor San Tekka visited with Ben Solo years after this. In Legends, after the Empire fell, Luke did build a new school on Yavin 4, but the audio description of this episode just calls this a verdant planet, and I think if it was Yavin 4, they would say so. Like, we don't see the massive red main planet of Yavin that Yavin 4 orbits as a moon. There's no Temple of Massassi anywhere. Folks, like the many sightings of gibberish Orabesh in the show, sometimes it's okay to just not have an answer yet. In Mando's cockpit, the controls
Tell us.
created from when Anakin piloted one of these in Phantom Menace. Remember, with Anakin, they were red because that fighter was initially on autopilot for him, but they shifted to blue when R2 released the controls, as they are now with Mando. Also, you'll notice the radar navigation is now on the left instead of the right, and Peli added that booster switch, and there's also a new display in orange and red in the upper right with Orabesh that translates to ATT PSI, PSI being a unit for pressure, maybe an adjustment for the exposed droid port now being closed off in a jump seat. Although, when Mando lands and hops out, briefly the camera does frame R2 back in the empty of that port. R2 greets him.
That's beautiful.
Well done.
Filoni, my
I
man.
assume those beeps translate to, hey, I once piloted one of those Naboo starfighters with a future war criminal whose son is now the dean of the new school we're building. Ain't life crazy? Mando sees a boulder rising, we think, by itself from behind the ridge, as if maybe Luke or Grogu might be doing some rock force bench pressing like Luke did on Dagobah. Instead, this is actually in the mandibles of an ant droid, a new form of tech in Star Wars. I love these things because, like ants, their bodies are segmented into 3 cubes. Colored white and blue are R2's colors. And you'll notice their front cube is larger with a photoreceptor in order to see over their cargo that they're carrying, just like R2's photoreceptor. And then one of these checks in with R2. They have this little exchange. The android nods. Just seems like R2 might be the ant queen of this colony who runs this hive mind.
You know, what this just really made me think that Star Wars should include one of their live action pieces. We've seen the mod gangs and such where they do upgrades, and the fact that we have these ants that are built directly modeled after like real ants and what makes them operable and work so well. I want to see like the droid makers. Like the guy, like just an episode that you encounter someone who's like building a droid and modeling after something. Just some like awesome tone poem thing. It's a Pinocchio type of story in a way.
Great.
Yeah, wouldn't it be cool?
God, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
That would be brilliant.
A specified live action for everyone starts yelling at me about like, oh no, they've done it in this
Star
story.
Wars visions. Yeah.
And yes, they are building the Jedi school that we saw in the Last Jedi flashbacks. The building that they eventually complete is that same beehive-shaped structure that we saw at the center of the surrounding additions and dorm huts that are visible later on. The same school where Luke will train his nephew Ben Solo before Luke freaks out and scares the shit out of Ben, leading to his defection. The Kylo Ren comics actually show that it was not Ben who went on a killing spree and burned down the temple, but instead a bolt of lightning from Snoke / Palpatine. And then Ben Solo fled and later on adopted the identity of Kylo Ren.
Way to save him.
Grogu's meditation session is introduced with these beautiful shots of nature, swaying bamboo, light beaming through the leaves, and just gorgeous music.
Who wouldn't meditate here, man?
The flute is Ludwig Göransson's Grogu theme, the music we heard when we first learned the name of Grogu.
Grogu and I can feel each other's thoughts.
Grogu?
Grogu gets distracted, of course, lifting a frog into
Every
his mouth
time.
until Luke catches him.
Grogu.
Gilly.
Sorry.
Luke, in a way, mirrors the demonstration Yoda did for him, lifting the entire X-Wing from the swamp water. Now, we gotta say, the VFX on Luke's face is a solid improvement. This time, they put less of his dialogue on screen in close-up, at least at first in the episode.
All right, let's go for a walk.
Since mouth movement is really the hardest part of this animation. Reportedly, Lucasfilm also hired YouTuber Shamook to create a much better deepfake of Luke. After the Mandalorian Season 2 finale, Mark Hamill returns to voice Luke here, though it sounds like they directed him to deliver his lines in a calmer, more zen state in order to avoid having to animate a lot of facial emotion. This is all just especially impressive when you realize we're really just watching two puppets. One practical, one digital.
It's a good way to put that.
It's kind of unsettling when you put it that way.
The uncanny valley.
Freaking daylight under his body, meaning they must have, I guess, keyed out the puppeteer or used VFX to do this. The fact that we can't tell,
Yeah, it's
just
amazing.
assume Grogu is a real living toddler is magic. Luke tells Grogu
Yeah,
about
it's amazing.
Yoda. I love how he force lifts him to keep up.
His name was Yoda. He was small like you, but his heart was huge. He once said to me, "Size matters not." That's how he talked. He would speak in riddles.
Yes, you can hear John Williams' Yoda theme in there, which always brings tears to my eyes. Size matters not is the first time we see this Luke in this episode speak in close-up. And yeah, it is pretty hard to animate the impact of the S and the T consonants, which sit at the front of the mouth, especially using your lips and your teeth. However, I gotta say, it's pretty clever of them to delay this close-up until we get to a line that is a specific, meaningful callback to the original trilogy, because mentally, all of us viewing this might be focused less on the mouth, instead thinking back to Yoda in Empire in that scene.
I can't. It's too big. Size matters not. Look at me. Judge me by my size, do you?
Major props to stand-in actor Graham Hamilton, who replaced Max Lloyd-Jones, who actually cameoed last episode as an X-Wing pilot, for doing the physical embodiment of Luke Skywalker here. Hamilton just did a great job capturing Mark Hamill's posture from Return of the Jedi on this "he would speak in riddles" line. Notice his neck is sloped forward. Like, he definitely studied the tapes.
Oh, that's
on that
crazy.
Dave
Damn.
Filoni directed this episode, but it was written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni together, and I think they might have written words for Luke with easier consonant sounds to animate, relying specifically on repetition. Like, notice in this clip.
Have you heard anyone talk like that back home? Do you remember back home?
The K sound sits in the back of the mouth, uses less of the front part of the mouth than the lips and the teeth, and then the B and the M really just require the lips to close. So think about it. Back home. A lot easier to animate than a T and an S, which are more complex. So repeating the phrase back home, from our eyes, it's much more lifelike. I really do think they were being strategic about what words they tried to have this puppet pronounce.
I love you, Erik. I love you so much.
Yeah.
When we walked into this video, I don't think either one of us were expecting such a detailed breakdown on the specific choice of writing dialogue in order to make this deep fake de-aging face replacement crap work that much better. That is a really impressive analysis you put forward. You're keeping up with the corridor.
I was about to say, I thought I just watched a corridor crew breakdown or a behind-the-scenes featurette or something.
It does make me appreciate the attention to detail they have to put forth. Like, okay, so much actually went wrong. It can't just be the face. We gotta do so much more.
Really sell this, and we gotta really make it convincing. And when we show him speak, it's gonna count.
Luke helps Grogu remember the night of Order 66 in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, which Ahsoka teased for us last season on The Mandalorian.
Someone took him from the temple. Then his memory becomes dark.
Here, we actually see it from Grogu's point of view, all framed in the cornea of an eye, which initially ripples out from Grogu on the jungle floor and then spreads outward to fill the whole frame, telling us that it is really Luke's eye peering into Grogu's memory. As the memory begins, listen closely. Yes, first, we hear the voices of Jedi children, suggesting that Grogu might have initially been in the room or around those younglings that Master Anakin slaughtered, or perhaps could have been in a different Padawan class. Because we see these three Jedi fighting the 501st Clone Trooper Battalion. You can tell it's them. They got the same blue-plated armor. These are the troopers that Anakin led into the temple, the best of the best, which is bad news for the Jedi. The two Jedi on the outside are robed, but based on their hands, they do appear to be adults. And the one in the middle is a man with long blonde hair tied in a bun. He does look a bit like the Jedi Temple's Battlemaster, Sin Dralig, who at the time of Order 66 was teaching a class of Padawans, though it is believed that Anakin Skywalker killed him, a security security holocron showed Anakin slaying the students of the class, so I'm assuming this guy is probably someone else. We also don't know if these Jedi were aware Grogu was behind them, because he does seem to be peering out from some kind of concealed container. I still think there is some validity to a theory that I think is crazy, but I really love, that Grogu could have been hidden inside of the shell of R2-D2. R2 was present at the temple during the massacre. Right after the massacre, when Anakin brought him back to Padme's flat, R2 had some pretty freaked out exchange with 3PO.
Hush, not so loud.
And notice here that the trooper did not say, grab the kid. He just pointed forward and said, go, 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 let's move. I think these troopers were really just moving past something like an astromech droid, oblivious to what was hidden inside. And during this
Fascinating.
fight, green and blue blades, the blue blaster bolts, reflecting Grogu's eyes as he reacts in terror. And his eyes focus specifically on that green lightsaber hilt rolling toward him out of a dead hand. It's just also worth noting that when Grogu witnessed Luke saving them with his lightsaber in that Mandalorian Season 2 finale, the color of the security camera monitor was shaded in monochrome. Grogu did not see that green blade in action until Luke came through the doors and zipped up the blade back in the hilt. I'm wondering if Grogu may associate a green lightsaber blade with that trauma from the night of Order 66. And so, igniting Yoda's saber might not be the cool toy that Grogu would be that eager to revisit the pain of. And as Ahsoka said, Grogu's memory goes dark at this point. He now awakens from his memory in a totally new location than where he was before. He's now at a riverbank, meaning revisiting that memory exhausted him into a kind of coma for a period.
Why your ability to talk about such a psychoanalysis traumatic event and then just meanwhile
On to the fun stuff.
yeah, I was like about to cry, just like getting lost in this
that,
like wow, that's so heartbreaking. I never even considered all those possibilities of what might have actually happened with Grogu and his object identification that activates his subconscious traumatic, like that's a triggering point for him. I'm not sure if it would be, because I mean, if I look back on that whole scene with Luke and Grogu in Mandalorian Season 2, I mean, he seemed pretty like hopeful and optimistic. And he wasn't like, hey, get away.
I feel like no, leave me, you must. I feel like if it was that traumatic, he would have had a spasm or something when Luke showed up the first time. Yeah,
he would have been like Sarah Paulson in every season of American Horror.
I want to see some hysterical snot acting from Baby Yoda.
Mando, meanwhile, wakes up to find Ahsoka Tano.
I'm an old friend of the family.
Yep, me and Luke's war criminal dad used to be tight. Now, concept art in the credits suggested that Mando was actually gonna instinctively fire at her, but Ahsoka might have redirected that blast using the Force. I guess like how
cool. That would
Red
have
used
been
the
neat.
Force to stop the blaster bolt. Ahsoka says,
There's nothing now, but will someday be a great school. Grogu will be its first student.
yes, confirming that the school that Luke later inducts his nephew into was actually initially built to teach Grogu, a student who, I believe, we will learn, will rebuff Luke Skywalker, setting up Luke to not yet learn the error of the Jedi Orthodoxy by the time Ben defects. But at this point in history, Luke and Ahsoka are full of optimism.
There is no place in the galaxy more safe than here with Luke.
Are you sure about that? But one of the things that impresses me most about this
Kill
episode
Bill
is the way it
too.
really has a difficult line with how much we should trust the Jedi way at this point in history.
I don't understand why you're all right with Skywalker's decision to train the kid when you wouldn't.
Because it was his choice. I don't control the wants of others.
Yeah, that little sharp exhale from Ahsoka reveals the doubt of one teacher politely disagreeing with the mentorship agreed by another. Like, she did not want to train Grogu because she sensed in that kid the same fear of losing a loved one that she saw in Anakin. But Luke never knew Anakin as a man before Darth Vader, just a regretful, withered old man under the armor. So Luke believes he really can be the guru that Yoda and Obi-Wan were to him.
I'm just gonna throw this out here. Yeah, you're right. At the same time, though, I think Luke does know Anakin, especially because, like, as you see with this scene with Grogu, he's able to tap into his memories and his real emotions. So I feel like he's able, in Return of the Jedi, tapping into the true soul of Anakin Skywalker underneath the dark side. So yeah, just gotta throw that out there.
I feel enlightened for just having heard it.
Yeah. You want to say?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
How's that book coming along, Brian?
Mando and Ahsoka debate over whether Grogu should be called a foundling or Padawan, but Ahsoka offers to give Grogu the Beskar chainmail on his behalf so Grogu won't be distracted by Mando's presence. And I love this. As Mando takes one last look at Grogu, sunlight shines on his shoulder. This is the same sunlight we saw beaming down on Grogu during their meditation through the bamboo leaves, a form of the Force surrounding and comforting them both. And now it gleams on the exact shoulder where the Mudhorn sigil is on Mando's armor, a sigil that Mando chose as his signet from the moment that Grogu used the Force to save him, the moment these two were really fused together. As Mando Starfighter departs, Grogu reaches his little hand as if trying to muster the Force to force pull his friend back to him.
The Mando crashes.
Dies in an explosion.
Don't try. Do.
Yes, of course, recalling Yoda's famous instruction.
Try not. Do. Or do not. There is no try.
Luke runs with Grogu in a backpack, just like Yoda rode his back during the training on Dagobah. He does the same kind of flips he did through the swamp. They climb up a bamboo stalk and just sway with the breeze, crouching tiger
Like
hidden dragon
Twilight
style.
or
He says,
Crouching Tiger.
The wide world exists in balance. Feel the Force all around you. Through the Force, you will find balance as well.
And we hear the French horn of John Williams' Force theme, first heard when Luke gazed out on the binary sunset of Tatooine. And suspending them in the breeze like this is really just a metaphor for how connecting with the Force is like floating amidst nature, the kind of approach Luke takes with Rey on Ahch-To.
And between it all,
Balance.
Luke has Grogu balance on one foot, like the awkward handstands Yoda had him do. And then later, Grogu watches as Luke's Star Wars kids with his lightsaber, the green blade reflecting in his eyes again, just like the sabers did during Order 66. So while he watches with great interest, I really do think he's associating those two moments. Luke uses one of those training remotes to test Grogu's reflexes like Obi-Wan used with him on the Falcon in A New Hope. Grogu at first rolls it like a ball, just like how he turned that spherical knob on Mando's ship into a ball toy, making it feel especially cruel when this remote zaps Grogu, when unlike Luke, he doesn't have a lightsaber to deflect it. I do like how this training remote moves with the same sudden stop-motioning shifts that it did in 1977. Grogu backflips away from it, eventually just straight up destroying it and drowning it, similar to how Grogu has quickly resorted to force choking in the past. Getting a head start on Disney doing the same thing to this actor.
Oh, shots fired.
It's more like he's remembering.
Voss shot first.
Now, Grogu is over 50 years old, the same age Anakin Skywalker would have been, and if he had many masters over the years, as Ahsoka said, Grogu's Jedi training probably exceeded Luke's own. Ahsoka also says,
Sometimes the student guides the master.
likely referring to her relationship with Master Anakin, whom she
100%.
quite a lot throughout the Clone Wars. They go on to say,
Sometimes I wonder if his heart is in it.
So much like your father.
now I assume she's referring to... No, I'm just kidding. Really, she sees a mentor doubting a student, just as Anakin would do to her, doubt that she would later prove him wrong on. Mando returns to Tatooine and joins Boba Fett, Fennec Shan, Black Chrysanthemum, the mods, and the mayor's majordomo at this fun little moment.
Mayor Mark Shays is on their payroll and has flown off-world, which leads us to believe the storm is about to break.
It was a scheduled vacation, actually.
And you'll notice as they strategize, Boba's helmet sits on the throne. Just a cool little way of signaling his authority throughout all of this.
Yep.
Especially over the plot.
It is kind of sad what's happening with Boba in the optics of the public for the most part.
Yes. I think if everyone had unanimously liked the first 4 episodes, it might be a little bit different, but yeah.
People for the longest time like, are we gonna get that Boba movie? Oh, we got a Mandalorian show. Is it about Boba? It's not about Boba? No, that's too bad. Oh, Boba's a Mandalorian season 2? Cool. All right, it's a little bit different than I imagined, but still I'm on board. Oh, finally after years of wanting it, he's getting his own thing.
Oh, wait a minute.
He's not really exciting. Now it's great that he's not in it, but
It has been a very difficult journey for old Boba Fett, hasn't it? I wonder how Tim Warren Morrison feels.
yeah. Hey, we liked the
yeah.
2 through 4 a lot more than most people did. So.
We're the target audience because we're enjoying kind of every part of it.
We see the skull of the crate dragon that Mando and the Tuskens and Cobb Vanth slayed, now strapped to the roof of a Jawa sandcrawler. That same crate dragon's ribcage now adorns the interior of the Mos Pelgo saloon, meaning they had to disassemble and reassemble it piece by piece to fit in through the door. Still, I love that they did this. Mando asks Cobb Vanth for some backup.
Mos Pelgo might be good right now.
Freetown.
What? It's called Freetown now.
We changed the name. Suits us better.
That Weequay proprietor is once again played by W. Earl Brown, who co-starred on HBO's Deadwood alongside Timothy Olyphant. The breeze that we saw in that opening image on the Vapor Spire vein returns, hitting a wind chime, signaling Cobb to gaze out on the horizon to see this slender figure approaching. This is just more great Western imagery to introduce this newcomer, teased by the title, From the Desert Comes a Stranger, sauntering into view like David Carradine. This is Cad Bane, a Duros bounty hunter from Clone Wars and Bad Batch, involved in a number of plots like holding senators hostage to to free the annoyingly voiced Zero the Hutt. Also helping Sidious locate a bunch of Force-sensitive kids for a Sith army. Later on, joining the Separatists who would try to assassinate Palpatine. And then in Bad Batch, kidnapping Omega. Also, in an unfinished Clone Wars episode, it was going to be revealed that the dent in Boba Fett's helmet was caused by a duel with Cad Bane. I expect that to come up next episode, along with Cad Bane's past scuffle with Fennec Shand that we saw last year on Bad Batch. He wears van braces on his wrists, and he has these breathing tubes that feed into his cheeks. This is not because he needs them to breathe normally, but to protect him from getting Force choked by a Jedi. And I love how his skin is now a paler blue and wrinkled compared to his animated form. It's a really cool way of showing how time has dried out this bounty hunter. He says,
"What Fetter's paying you will match. And all you've got to do is stay put and let things play out."
Chilling voice work by Corey Burton, who voiced him on the animated series. This guy's known for his versatile voiceovers throughout the Disney parks in a number of titles. Cad Bane keeps his eyes hidden for most of the exchange until...
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Reveal.
I'd be careful where I was sticking my nose if I were you.
These eyes are so effectively alarming to see in live action, signaling this steely, Clint Eastwoody anger that Cobb didn't already know who he was. And he drops that great line about his nose, despite Cad not having a nose. That jumpy deputy Scott is played by J.J. Danshaw, who has actually been Tamara Morrison's stunt double in past episodes.
Oh, neat.
While Cad and Cobb remain frozen
Promotion.
in this tense standoff, so well edited, the deputy fidgets and shifts his weight around. This is what causes Cobb to take his eyes off Cad for just a split second as the drawing happens. But since Cad never took his eyes off Cobb, he wins the draw, shooting Cobb in the shoulder, just a flesh wound, but he did shoot him in his shooting arm, a pretty serious injury. The deputy, meanwhile, he ain't got no respect. I love how afterward Joe takes the fastest glance at the deputy, but still runs over to the marshal. I mean, it's a triage scenario, but it still reminded me of those nurses going for Mr. Burns instead of Smithers.
Yeah, I mean, I was so in the moment of what happened and just knowing who Cad Bane is. I was like, at the moment, like, he killed him. Because even though, you're pointing out that because of the fact Oliphant darted his eyes and that's why Cad Bane was able to win that duel, I still think even if there was no darting of eyes, Cad Bane would have... Cad Bane can take on Jedi. Yeah, I think he would have been able to take him down regardless of whatever darting of eyes happened.
Yeah, I mean, Cobb Vanth is pretty good, but he's not like this infamous, like, galaxy-wide bounty hunter.
Yeah. And I think with him even being more saturated blue, it might have detracted from his eyes a little bit. So I'm wondering if with the color palette, kind of a grayer overtone with it, it allows his eyes to pop that much more and feel more alien, like an alien threat. Like more like UFO reminiscent in a way.
Yeah, it's like if you make the blue more real, then the reveal of just how massive and menacing the eyes are gets greater, I think, in the process, yeah.
Two pikes bring a Camp Tono into Garsa Fwip's Sanctuary Cantina where the usual faces can be seen. There's Rodian, there's an R3X dealer, there's an RA-7
They never leave.
Shadra fan, there's a Snivian with beautiful hair. Maybe she's born with it. Snivians are a throwback to a Snaggletooth action figure from Kenner, modeled on a background extra that you can see in a cantina in A New Hope, but this Camp Tono goes boom! A classic gangland bombing like the Al Capone bombing in The Untouchables.
Damn, my brother said that.
Who actually wrote the opening crawl of the first Star Wars film. And I love this. Notice how one frame before that Camp Tono
I didn't know that.
Garza is about to say something as if she realized a moment before what was about to happen. Now, the band in the scene includes that Bith guitarist and that astromech drummer, but no Max Rebo.
Rebo lives!
This is some saucy skipping the set trial
Best
shit.
day to
This
call
guy's
it
got an
sick.
inside source because somehow he also survived the explosion of Jabba's yacht. Max is f***ing in on it. Do not join his band. A little detail on the transition here. The flames transition right to Luke's finished school, giving us just a few frames showing that fire blazing up from beneath the school, foretelling this school's own future fiery end. Now, inside this temple, our shelves contain a number of artifacts, which in the wide profile shot may include a couple withered books on that shelf. Perhaps these are the sacred Jedi texts that Luke actually spent this era of his life tracking down. Luke unwraps Mando's gift to Grogu, Beskar chainmail armor, Mithril. Actually, the framing from Luke's perspective already drapes it over Grogu's body. Fits like a glove. But Luke gives him another option.
This is a lightsaber. It belonged to my teacher, Master Yoda. And now, I'm offering it to you.
Again, John Williams' Yoda theme returns here. And yes, I love the return of Yoda's shorter lightsaber, first seen in Attack of the Clones, falling from his hands during his duel with Sidious in Revenge of the Sith. It was revealed to be destroyed in Darth Vader Comics #1. However, a later comic, Age of the Rebellion, does hint that Yoda might have reassembled the saber when he was on Dagobah, so he probably had it with him on Dagobah when he died when Luke was there, keeping it in that wooden box. If you think about it, just like Luke's lightsaber was kept in a wooden box in Maz Kanata's basement. This being a child's choice between two lives is another parallel between these series and Lone Wolf and Cub, when a child is made to choose between the sword and a toy, the path of a warrior, or the life of a normal stupid kid. In this episode, Grogu's choice uncertain, but I believe, given how rare the child likely remains about the danger of green lightsabers from his most traumatic memory, and the way he reached out for Mando, I think it is likelier that he's going to choose that Beskar armor, especially when I think the series is setting him up to wield the dark saber anyway. He is a being of both Mandalorian and Jedi custody, just as Tar Vizsla was.
1000%.
It's like poetry, you're right. But as we cut to black, perhaps my favorite detail of this episode, look very, very closely.
Maybe break the
Grogu's
curse
mouth
too.
begins to open. Might be a small detail, but the episode's audio description specifically call this out. I think we cut away right as Grogu was about to utter his first word. What would that word have been, I wonder? Mando, Beskar. Or maybe he just pukes up like 30 frogs. Hey, if you live in the Chicago area, you gotta come see New Rockstars live on February 11th, 8 p.m. Talia Hall. Ticket link in the description. We're gonna be doing some wacky, fun stuff that we never do here on the channel.
Cool.
Please come out to meet us. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss. Follow New Rockstars and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!
Yeah, it was great.
That was very enlightening.
100% agree. That's what we were saying in our review of what's going to happen with Grogu. Yep, 100,000% agree.
He's the one.
Then he'll get his own show.
The Book of Grogu. Yeah. Partway through, he'll shift focus and just be about Luke for like 4 episodes, while Grogu's halfway across the galaxy.
Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, keep a lookout for a reaction to the finale. You can subscribe, click that bell, hit that like button. More importantly, keep up to date with New Rockstars, the whole team. They're a hard-working team, man. It's more than just Voss. There's a whole bunch of people there. 45 people work on the videos.
Hundreds.
Hundreds. There's a factory.
This is a community. A compound somewhere just cranking around.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you soon.